Go ahead. I know this lady. You have a question.
See, your lot of tables and memory in very big memory.
Okay. So what she's looking for is we had a lot of things yesterday that had memory in them and wanted to know what can we eat, supplements we might be able to take that can help our memory. So again, going back to the naturopathic philosophy, which I found in the research. Excuse me, can you mute them? Can you mute all the people on? I'm hearing noise from Zoom. Can you mute them? Just mute them. Yeah, thank you. So what a tissue looks like is the first thing you want to eat. So your brain is fat. You want to have good fats. That's the most important because with fat, you're feeding fat the nutrients it needs. That's what you're getting out of that. So I like something, it's called Prima EPA DHA, and I use that for both pain because I find the fish oils very anti-inflammatory as well. And when I broke my leg and certain things like that, I find it takes away the pain for me, even better than turmeric. Turmeric works good too. It works down a different pathway. Remember, it's like a COX and the COX inhibitor, and then your fish oils are LOX inhibitors. So it doesn't go in to those pain-causing prostaglandin 2s and the leukotrienes, which are very, very, very powerful inflammatory agents. So we're blocking those inflammatory agents from being able to cause pain in our body when we take those things. So first of all, so we want to eat good fat. Secondly, with the brain, because the brain works so hard during the day, we get a lot of lipid peroxides, which means we get a lot of free radicals in our brain. So the biggest detoxification is at night, getting good sleep, and also cooling down the brain. Now, one doctor who I really highly admire, taught at Harvard, who's a psychiatrist who really is a brain expert, he says, put a cool pad on your neck to cool down your brain. There's another doctor who's at Princeton, and he says, no, you have to put a little warm on your brain because if you put cool, the brain will actually heat up more. But I don't exactly agree with him. I think I would go with just a cool compass on my neck to cool my brain down because that's the most important thing, that the brain cools down and it detoxifies. And I told you it came through here. Now, the professor at Princeton had something very interesting because he had some kind of monitor that you wore, and it would tell you what to do also to cool down your brain. So for some people, it was exercise before you sleep. So that is good, probably for somebody that has high cortisol, because, when you exercise, you actually raise your cortisol, and then it should come way down and it should crash, because people that can't fall asleep, the cortisol is too high at night. It needs to have that slope to crash at night for people to fall asleep. So that was one strategy. And then the other strategy was a warm bath. I know for me, with Epsom salts, that really helps me to fall asleep. And basil oil also helps me to fall asleep. Anything relaxing. We know in the studies, one of the most studied products for anti-anxiety and relaxation is actually lavender oil. But I had third-degree burns once, and I had to use it all the time on my burns because actually lavender oil, everyone should have organic lavender oil in their kitchen. It takes a burn away like instantaneously. It's really kind of a miracle. So I had put so much of that to try to get the pain away from my legs. Lavender kind of makes me sick now because I smelled it for so long. But it's also in the mint family. So also, I'll tell you one other thing with basil that's really incredible. I bought a house. I have an acre of land, and it's out in the country, and there's a lot of spiders. And I put on a pair of pants, and I believe I didn't see the spider bite, but I think it was a wolf spider. or a brown recluse, because both of them live in kind of the darkness like that. And I got inflammation like this, and my leg blew up and got my immune system and everything. And I do, for the university, I do a thing on first aid kit at home, like stuff you can use from home. And I learned that basil took away spider bites. So I got another bite when I came out of my pool, and it felt just like that bite I had gotten before, and it started blowing up a little bit. And I took that basil, and it was fresh basil, but I'm sure basil oil would work. I rubbed it on, this brown liquid came off my leg, and I never got anything from the bite. So, yeah, the herbs are really mystical, magical, incredible. They really are. There's so many things that they can do. So we want to then eat a lot of really good antioxidants. Can somebody tell me what a lot of good antioxidants would look like? How about you? What? Right, with lots of beautiful colors. Fruits and vegetables. Absolutely. There you go. Perfect. Ginger, turmeric, all those colored spices too. They're all high antioxidants. And what else would we want for our brain? So we want good fat. We want antioxidants. Walnuts, right. Things that look like the brain. Walnuts are the best. So those are the two things that have shown a lot of memory things. Now, one other thing that's very important, if we don't detoxify, we want to test for heavy metals, because you can see the literature where aluminum toxicity causes Parkinson's. A lot of Parkinson's goes into Alzheimer's. My uncle owned a aluminum siding company. A lot of people used to cook with aluminum. The pans were very cheap. So you want to detoxify that heavy metal, because those plaques are there for a reason. That's what we have to really remember. We've lost that. We go into the drama of medicine. Like, oh, you got a plaque. Okay, we have to ask yourself, if I eat bacon and you eat bacon and you eat we eat the same thing, why do you have the plaque and I don't? Right? That's what we should be asking ourselves and saying why. So most of the reasons why is because too much sugar causing glycation, and other things, baked things also cause glycation. The things that cause glycation in the blood vessels are going to cause micro damages to those blood vessels. Now your body's going to alert the immune system. And with the immune system, the first step is calcium. So it's going to lay that calcium down, because it doesn't want the other cells. It's like the lady that puts her foot into the shoe, and this narrow shoe, and it's getting inflamed. And now the calcium comes to try to protect the other cells, because the cells are popping open, and she's hurting the cells when she wears that shoe. So the first thing she has to do is do what? The first thing, right? Get rid of that shoe. Don't wear it. So the first thing you have to do, if people are getting plaques, you have to remove whatever it is. If it's too much sugar in the diet, if it's heavy metals, you have to remove that from the body. And chelation is the best way to remove heavy metals. And I've seen a huge difference. The man who's I call him my handyman, but he's a really high-end contractor. He does things that other people don't do with the older houses. He's very well known. But he helps me so much in my house because I help him. He had gotten arsenic poisoning because when you put a patio deck on, that red wood, that treated wood, it's treated with arsenic. So there's so many ways. The chemtrails they spray have shown to have a lot of aluminum in them. And then, of course, mercury from fish that we eat. So all of those things are really detrimental to the brain, because that's why it's putting a plaque. So those are the things that I really recommend for memory. Yeah.
Just the exercise part, is the meditation type exercise relaxing exercise or
Yeah, meditation is absolutely. I'll do a little meditation right now after I get my questions for all of you that I do with my patients. Even the most anxious patient, it calms them down and it takes 30 seconds. So anytime you can give your brain a rest from thinking, you're also going to stop a lot of that oxidative stress that's coming at it. And cortisol also destabilizes the brain memory and the membranes in the brain. And you'll see that like a lot of people, I actually testified to this because they put this little girl on 50 milligrams of prednisone a day and they put her in a psychiatric hospital and they didn't want to let her go. And I showed the research to the judge. I testified on Zoom to the judge. She was one of my patients and I testified, here's this study that shows high doses of prednisone causes all these different psychiatric conditions because it destabilizes the brain. Yes.
What about ginkgo biloba?
Ginkgo, thank you very much for asking that. That is probably the number one herb that would be an antioxidant because guess what? When we hit Hiroshima with the nuclear bomb, that's what they do, right? That's what radiation does. It causes oxidative stress, like major oxidative stress. The ginkgo trees remained. Everything else was obliterated, but ginkgo remained. Yeah. So ginkgo biloba, excellent. There's also another herb called bacopa. And then the company I told you about yesterday makes brain tissue things, and it really helps with memory. I've had a lot of success with that as well, because it's going to change the genetic expression, the microRNA, so the new cells will be healthier. Yes.
Yesterday, you mentioned mixing oils with alcohol to make your drinks and stuff.
No, I was saying the best way to extract an herb is using alcohol. I recommend getting an organic vodka is probably the easiest. I use the 198 proof organic sugarcane alcohol, but then you have to dilute it at the end. So you have to have at least an 80 proof alcohol, and vodka is the most clean of all the alcohols, and getting an organic vodka, what I would recommend. And then with the elderberry, you put in a cup of elderberries, and then you want to put enough alcohol to cover the elderberries, maybe leaving like an inch more of alcohol, and then put it in the darkness. I put it in a bag and I put it in my pantry, and then every 2 or 3 days go and just shake it a little bit so it's all, it's breaking down and you've got those pieces. And now we charge $200 for that at our pharmacy for an herbalist to do that, So now you've got, of course, she's got $10 million of insurance policy she has to pay to sell her things. So anyway, yeah, that's the very best way. Now, what I was telling you yesterday was, and I recommend this for everybody, it's very detoxifying and anti-inflammatory and everything. You can also extract in vinegar, because you'll see sometimes like a garlic vinegar. A lot of people do this if you go to these weekend things they have, like farmers markets, they'll make oils in nice bottles. They'll have the garlic still in there, and they'll make an oil or a vinegar, either one. But I make a salad dressing, an Italian salad dressing with both. So I just take my housekeeper's like, how come you have so many glass jars around here? Because I buy everything in glass. You don't want plastic that leaches out, and that's not good. So take a mayonnaise jar, put half, I personally like apple cider vinegar, the one that's not pasteurized. It's going to be the best. It's going to have a lot of good bacteria in it. And then take half olive oil, and you then just throw in, you can just take a handful of basil fresh, or you could use the powdered spices as well. A few cloves of garlic, just chop them up, stick that in there, and put some oregano in there, and you've got something that's highly antimicrobial. As a matter of fact, you can leave that out for 3 months or whatever, and there will be no yeast or bacteria in it because it's so highly antimicrobial. So you can do oil or vinegar, but it's not, or water, you know, you make a tea and you get some of the healing properties out of that.
Comment on Prevagen.
Prevagen, I'm really not sure what's in Prevagen. I don't use it, so it's not something I use. Yeah.
What is about arsenic in rice?
Is there arsenic in rice? Yes, there can be arsenic in rice because there's arsenic in the ground. It's a natural occurring thing. And, you know, they actually used to use arsenic in medicine. So I don't think getting a little bit of arsenic, just like in the plants, there's poison in our plants. Getting that poison actually shows, it actually kills a lot of microbes and things in our gut. So, but if you're constantly, you know, eating rice it's got arsenic in it, I would definitely get my hair tested to make sure I don't have arsenic. And things that you can, do we have any compounding pharmacists in here? Things that you can compound, we use DMSA, we use something called DMPS, though I think DMPS may be I think maybe the FDA stopped that from coming in. EDTA, of course, and then there's penicillamine, which is a chelator of lead, but it also chelates other things, and that's a prescription drug you can also get to chelate. Anything other questions? Yeah, they probably came out with the statement about it. Yeah. So that's why it's good to rotate your diet too. You know, I think someone died from mercury toxicity with type of marijuana because it was from Hawaii and there's a lot of mercury in that soil for whatever reason. So, you know, that's why soil, the way people farm, all this is really, really important. Okay, any other questions? All right, well, let's get started with garlic. Garlic materials showed antimicrobial activities in such an order. Fresh garlic was the most potent. So that's why putting fresh garlic in that olive oil is what I do. But if I get lazy, because I don't like chopping a lot of olive oil, I'll put garlic powder, which was the next antimicrobial. And the company I use also, they make a enteric-coated garlic for the gut, but they also make one that's the powder capsules because it does kill H. pylori. So garlic oil, which is kind of interesting because in most plants, the oil is the most highly antimicrobial, and then the butyrated. But garlic oil penetrated the cellular membranes and even the membranes of the organelles, the mitochondria, damaged organelles, and resulted in the death of candida. So a lot of people have candida. Furthermore, garlic oil induced differential expression of several critical genes, including those involved in oxidation and reduction processes and cellular response to drugs and starvation. So garlic is a really good choice for if you're trying to get rid of some candida. And how many of you ever have seen with candida, they'll put people on the drugs and those don't work. They'll have a yeast infection back again. Have you seen that before? Yeah. So it doesn't hurt if you're going to give that to add some garlic and oregano to it, or have them make that salad dressing I told you about. Those are very good. Garlic has enormous therapeutic potential, not only as a crude extract, but also through many isolated organic molecular compounds that it contains. And of course, the sulfur. You do not want garlic that's been desulfurated because that's where most of the beneficiaries come from. And again, here we see a lot of different cumin oils and a lot of different things that show effectiveness. Bile acid deficiency in a subgroup of patients with irritable bowel with constipation based on biomarkers in serum and fecal samples. So again, bile acids, extremely, extremely important. You'll see a big difference. And especially if your patients, because so many patients have lost their gallbladder. I mean, why do you need it really, right? That's the philosophy today. You'll see a huge difference right there in those patients if you start giving bile salts. And I think they're like $10 a month. It's the best investment they'll ever make, really. So for constipation, some of the things that we can give is the bile salts, the fenugreek, and of course I told you I have a capsule that contains both of those. Fennel seeds, that's what you get when you walk out of a Indian restaurant. Cascara sagrada, which those come in pills in the pharmacy. Ginger, aloe vera, apple pectin. I like using apple pectin to lower testosterone and estrogen when I've tested hormones. So I talked to you yesterday about this one test I do for the cortisol. It also tests all the hormones. So if estrogen is too high or testosterone's too high in men or women, put them on apple pectin. That will help take that down. Psyllium husk also, that's psyllium next to that. It's a bulk forming laxative. It absorbs water into the gut for easier bowel movements, promotes regularity, and it also is a prebiotic. So it's a good thing to take, and it will prevent complications of constipation, hemorrhoids, and anal fissures. So very important that we keep the bowels. That's like, the number one thing, keep the toxins flowing out. Also senna, which is more of we also have that in the pharmacy being sold. And anyway, I got off. I don't know why this keeps dinging from Zoom. Is there any way to stop this dinging from my computer? Because it kind of throws me off a little bit. Every time somebody comes in or goes out, the computer over here dings. Is there any way for us to get rid of that or not really?
So we would see it.
Okay, all right. Okay, used to treat constipation, bowel preparation for colonoscopies. They use senna because it is a stimulant for constipation. This is something you don't want to use on a regular basis, like you did the bulk forming, because all the bulk forming psyllium husk is doing is helping the bowels to move a little smoother. This is actually getting your bowels used to having that action on them in order to work. So this is what people use when they get addicted, let's say, to taking laxatives. So for diarrhea, we have the opioids, which we know of. We've got pectins, clays, acrimony, tannins, golden seal, bananas, white rice, applesauce, toast. All of those things can help with diarrhea. I like using also if people have a bowel infection to use clays like bentonite clay, though bentonite clay is one that they say is now irradiated, but other clays, they have zeolite and other things like that in order to absorb those toxins, because a lot of times the toxins, like C. diff, right? The toxins are worse than the bacteria itself as far as damaging the body. And I think those of us who are older pharmacists, I looked in one of my books and I saw Botulism toxin is the worst toxin in the world in notes. And if anybody would have told me 40 years ago, and PS, people will be injecting it in their face for wrinkles, I wouldn't have believed it. And and let me tell you something, it does cause problems. I had a couple of 60-year-old women that just refused to stop doing it. I'd get them balanced out, detoxified, they'd feel great. And then they go, oh, no, I don't feel good. I go, when did you go get Botox? Well, last week, and try to tell them you have to stop this. Well, unfortunately, they've got 20-year-olds doing this now. And when they would stop it, their face would just fall. Like it looked overnight like they'd aged like 25 years. Now they look like 75-year-olds, even though they were maybe 65, they look like they're 75. And I'll tell you, the one thing I always get when people start taking the whole food vitamins and the things for their skin, because your skin's mostly fat. So if you're taking the fish oils and the black currant oil and, putting more fats in your diet, people are asking me, did I have a facelift? Because the skin is the biggest organ. It needs to be fed. So our recommendations going back is for reflux, we want to try, of course, digestive enzymes would be my number one thing. You want to write that down. But if people are getting reflux and you want them to feel better afterwards, aloe gel, licorice, chamomile, and meadowsweet, all of those are very soothing to that condition. Toxins in the bowel, chlorophyll capsules are amazing as well. Chlorophyll really detoxifies the toxins, and clays. Healing the gut, apple pectin, calencia root is a vascular astringent. It's something I use for people with hemorrhoids. It's also called stone root. It also helps to build strong blood vessels. Then herbs that we want to do that to build up our mucus is we want to use the mucilaginous herbs like plantain, okra. Of course, the number one is aloe gel. We also know that licorice increases bicarb from the pancreas. So it will, if you have too much acid, then licorice would be a good choice for the people. Bitter herbs, we help increase our own digestive enzymes. So I start there. And then if that doesn't help, I go to the digestive enzymes, because all we're doing, that would be called supplementation therapy, right? When we don't make enough enzymes and we take enzymes, we're supplementing what we need, just like insulin would be if a type 1 diabetic is supplementing insulin because they don't make enough insulin or any insulin. Spasmodics and dyspepsia, gastritis, IBS, flagellants, we want to use to reduce gas, carminative herbs. We want to use the tannins, like from tea, to decrease our inflammation. We want to do the enzyme replacements for if people, after they eat, they get gas, pain, they have a leaky gut, food in the stool. That's another thing to have them look at their stools. Now, corn, also, I use corn sometimes because it doesn't really get digested very well. So if that's not digested, it's not really supposed to be. But that'll give you also the transit time. So have them eat corn at a certain time and then ask them to look, when does the corn come? It should be 16 to 24-hour transit time for your bowels. That would be a normal bowel. So have them look at that. And then for tight junctions, we can use glutamine, probiotics, oregano oil. So if people have IBDs and leaky gut, we want to use those types of things. So then we've gone over several times the natural antibiotics: wormwood, oregano oil, grapefruit, garlic, Spanish black radish, antigraphes. So anyway, so what we want to look now is the different types of diets that are out there. So we have the Mediterranean diet. The idea of a Mediterranean diet, did this start the new package, by the way, or is this still in the old? Okay. So the Mediterranean diet started because people from France, Greece, Spain, Italy have a lot less cardiovascular disease than we do here in the United States. And it's comprised mostly of leafy green vegetables, fruits, whole grains, potato, bread, but they're bread, when I say bread, from a good grain, not one that's been modified to increase its gluten. And they'll put lots of in the breads. Like I love a good German bread that's got lots of nuts and grains and everything in it. If you're going to eat bread, the best thing to do is get a bread machine. And the company I told you about actually has a grinder, because that's one of the things the owner back in the 1929 had, was a tabletop grinder of the barley and whatever. And or they'll sell it to you. They sell you the bulk grains too, so you can make your own breads and your own flours and things. It's really good. Olive oil they use as their primary fat source. They eat a lot of eggs, fish, and poultry. Red meat really isn't consumed that much. Maybe they have that once a week, like lamb. They eat a lot of lamb there. They also, I know in Tuscany, they eat boar, which is pig also. Herbs and spices help boost the flavor and provide antioxidant properties, and they use a little salt in their food. So the Mediterranean diet is the best studied, most evidence-based diet that we have, a very well-balanced diet that incorporates all the major food groups. And the Mediterranean diet has many, many antioxidant, therefore anti-inflammatory properties into it. The benefits: it lowers blood pressure, your lipids, endothelial dysfunction, glucose, your diabetes, and your waist this actually should say BMI and not the DMI. That was a mistake. Waist circumference. It's shown to reduce the risk of breast cancer. So, very interesting. The rate of breast cancer in India is 1/5,000th of what it is in England or the United States. They think mostly because they eat so much turmeric and ginger, and those both cause apoptosis and kill cancer cells 5 different ways. They shown all the different types of cancer reduction: head and neck, bladder, lung, even in heavy smokers, because Europeans do smoke more than Americans do. And again, this just talks about the different ingredients in the studies that were done with the whole grains and the fish and all those types of things. So a sample would be a full fat Greek yogurt with fruit and honey. Notice they still use sugars because our brain does need sugar. I'm not a big fan of honey. Number one, I don't particularly like it that much for me, but it does have a glycemic index, unfortunately, of 70. I much would prefer a blackstrap molasses or a sugarcane syrup with remember, when it has the dark part with it, you're going to get a lot of minerals. And we haven't gotten to this yet, but chromium is huge in decreasing diabetes, to getting it into the cell and into the muscle tissue. So when you have the different types of minerals that you need, because that's the way Mother Nature, our creator, works. The creator didn't leave you without something else in that product to help the body if you leave it in its natural form, like sugarcane. So like I said, the most nutrient dense thing you can buy on the market is blackstrap molasses. All that black, it's just all the minerals and B vitamins that are in there. Snack 1, almonds and an orange. Then they have Brussels sprout salad with chickpeas. I love chickpeas. They do, for women, I don't know in men, but they do increase the estrogen to a wonderful thing, not overdo it. And that's the thing about the body having its own consciousness, that I think that if it's getting too much of a food, it knows what to do with it. If it's getting too much of a chemical, it doesn't, because the body wasn't made for these man-made chemicals that we're seeing. So I had a patient once who was in her 50s, and her estrogen was totally great. You know, it was totally normal. And it turns out she ate hummus every day. She wasn't taking. And then I actually had a woman in her 70s. Now, I hadn't really seen a 45-year-old ever with normal progesterone, because about at 39, progesterone starts going down in women. And she was in her 70s, and we checked her products, because makeup, like, I don't know if they still do this or not, but Airbond makeup used to put estrogen in it, and Clinique used to have progesterone in its makeup. And but so we checked all her products, because the lab will also check products to see if they're got progesterone or progesterone causing thing. No. And then I said, "Are you eating yams?" She goes, "Oh my goodness, I love yams. I eat 2 every day." So that was helping to balance her hormones, because yams does increase progesterone. So having a plum for your next snack, and then dinner, eggs and tomato sauce with chickpeas and spinach, and 1 piece of pita bread, which would have been homemade with real wheat. And again, this is the food pyramid, where the dessert is on the top, where you eat the least of that. So this is the references. So the vegan diet, the conventional vegan diet primarily consists of a diet that contains only plants, such as vegetables, grains, legumes, nuts, and fruits. Vegan diet does not incorporate fish, poultry, honey, eggs, meat, shellfish, and dairy. Now, there's a sect of the Indians from India who don't even eat root vegetables. They're like ultra vegans. I don't even know, it's a religious thing for them. There are few variations and types of vegan diets. We've got the raw food vegan, which they don't cook anything over 118. I think that's a bit of a problem. I went to a raw food vegan Thanksgiving, and it was wonderful. I really loved the way the food tasted. There was a lot of mushrooms and things incorporated in it, but there were a lot of nuts. And it's hard. We don't make a lot of cellulose, so it's hard to break down those vegetables. And then there's a study that was done on broccoli, where they took broccoli that was raw, lightly steamed, or overcooked, or, cooked all the way through, not really overcooked, but cooked all the way through. And what do you think which gave the most vitamins to the person? Raw, lightly steamed, or fully cooked?
Lightly steamed.
Yes, you're right, lightly steamed, because it broke down those cellulose on the edge to release those vitamins and those phytonutrients. We also have the 80-10-10 vegan, where 80% is raw or cooked fruits and vegetables, 10% are proteins like beans, rice, quinoa, and 10% is fat, avocados and nuts. And then you have the junk food vegan diet, which has mock meat, cheeses, desserts, and processed vegan things. So yeah, a lot of vegetarians too. They're carbitarians more than they are vegetarians. So you have to look out for that. I think the healthiest in my mind is the one that you have, the 80-10-10, though I would probably do more personally, more like 60-20-20, I think would be a better, more balanced out diet. But they do need to really be conscious of how they're eating if they're going to get most of their vitamins and minerals out. Why would one eat a vegan diet? There's ethical concerns about animal welfare, and I certainly 1000% agree with that. I believe the animals were here for our body because it heals. I find the animal tissues heal the body better than the plants do. I find the plants, for me as a clinician, work better at cleaning out the body, work better at being antimicrobial, if you will, and killing bacteria and yeast and all that. The plants are far, far superior. But when it comes to getting that higher level of vitamin out of the meat tissue, you're going to get the vitamin that coincides with what the body needs. So I like that better. Health related, well, the people, probably the best diet would be to go study the Hunza people. They used to be closed off to the world. They lived to 135. There was a book I read, his waitress was 99 when he trekked up in the Himalayas with the Hunza people. But they did eat 5% meat to get that B12 out and some other nutrients. So most diets have meat incorporated into them, but very little meat. And the most important thing, or eggs, but the most important things goes back to the ethics. The way we treat our animals. And, when you go to Europe, people go, oh my God, I eat the same food. I ate pasta and pizza in Italy and all this. I didn't gain a pound. If I ate like this over here, I'd gain 20 pounds. And it's just the way everything is treated and respected more, and not everything going so fast. And, we're going to have to come back to that because number 3, environmental, and unfortunately they're putting all this thing on weather control, but there's real right now environmental things going on. There's plastic that's the size of Texas out in the ocean. There's plastic in our water. There's drugs in our water that we're getting. All these other things that are highly damaging and hurting children and people right here, right now, not something that may happen may or may not happen in 20 years. So I'm not trying to poo-poo it, but what I'm trying to say, all the real poisonous things that are happening to us right now, because they're corporate, they never get looked at or talked about. So I can't take a lot of this very seriously with the weather thing, because there's ways that they're making money off from that, where there's real environmental things that could be saving people right now with the heavy metals and things like that. And then being more connected to the earth, which, any farmer is, but most farmers eat meat. They're connected. And it was hard. My grandmother would have the stump for her chicken to take the head off the chicken and eat it. So it was hard because you played with the chickens. But then, you know what? You thanked God for giving you that food to begin with, and that the way it was created. So anyway, so the benefits is shown. Definitely, it's wonderful if you want to reduce your weight, a vegan diet. It's very low in calories. So, and it's very good. I love a vegan diet, a cooked vegan diet, because people with cancer have a hard time with a lot of raw food. But I do a vegan diet to reserve energy for cancer patients. And there was a study that came out that said arginine, pancreatic cancer cells need arginine because they don't make arginine. Well, arginine is found mostly in meat. And it was in Biotech News. It was about probably, I'd say 10 to 12 years ago that I saw that article. And I thought it was very interesting because in this, the scientists were saying that if people had pancreatic cancer, you probably would want to take the meat out of the diet. So, and meat is very hard to digest, so it takes a lot of energy. If I have them do anything, it would be just to, boil some bones and drink the broth of the bones would be the easiest way to get some of the nutrition. Vegan diets have been shown to reduce lipids, of course, improve blood glucose levels. There are studies that show those that partake in the vegan diet has significant reduction in the risk of cancer. Overall, they were associated with a lower risk of cardiovascular mortality and morbidity in the general population. So definitely, if you want to lose weight, go on a vegan diet. Now, I did for 2 years. I was very thin, but I had to have butter. So I really wasn't a vegan because there was something in my brain. I just had to have the butter. So I added, it was a vegan plus butter diet. Vitamin B12 deficiency is highly prevalent in vegans. So they have to, it says here cyanocobalamin, but really everyone, I believe, should start with methyl 12 B12 because I don't know how many don't methylate. So it's very important. I think they should probably just do away with cyanocobalamin. Other nutrient deficiencies that can occur is a calcium deficiency, vitamin D, iron, and omega-3, because the only other place they're going to get vitamin D from mostly is from mushrooms. They make a lot of vitamin D. So this would be a sample: potato pancakes with vegan sour cream made from almonds and coconuts, spicy buffalo cauliflower wings, black bean veggie burger, carrots and hummus, and General Tao's spicy tofu. Unfortunately, a lot of the tofu is now genetically modified, but that's a pretty good, well-balanced diet in there. Now, these imagination burgers and stuff, actually, they've outlawed some of that in Europe because, you know, those are made from, does anybody really know what they made it from? I don't know. It's kind of scary. I think it's bacteria like insulin. So I don't know. It's a little scary to me. I wouldn't eat that stuff, but they've been outlawed. So the vegetarian diet, there's lacto-vegetarian, includes dairy but excludes meat and egg products. There's the ova-vegetarian, includes eggs and egg products, but excludes dairy. There's the lacto-ova, which includes both the milk and the eggs. And there's the flexitarian, most vegetarian, but they consume a little bit of meat, fish, poultry sometimes. And that's probably really for longevity, the diets they look at probably would be the best longevity diet, to have a little bit of the meat sometimes. But though I know we all know a lot of people who've my grandmother lived a very long life eating pork chops for breakfast and bacon and stuff. So I think it's just the way the animals have been treated, because if they're standing in a stall getting inflammatory corn, guess what? You're gonna eat all those inflammatory components. That's why you have to have grass-fed beef and things like that. The ethics, their health concerns, environmental, and people immunity. But a lot of people especially in Asia, they have grown up and they live wonderfully on vegetarian diets, but they know how to do a vegetarian diet the correct way because it's just passed down from century to century. The benefits, it's reduced rates of death from ischemic heart disease, decreased incidence of hypertension, stroke, type 2 diabetes, and certain cancer, eliminates fat, nitrates, and sodium is in processed meats, increases dietary fiber, and increases intake of antioxidant-rich foods and enriched whole grains. Drawbacks, they too can lack B12, calcium, vitamin D, protein, omega-3 fatty acids, iron, zinc, and iodine. So it's very important, again, to know what makes, beans and rice make a complete protein. I don't understand why. One thing to me that's confusing is why the Asian cultures don't eat the brown on the rice, because the brown part of the rice, the wheat, it's just like the sugar. It's full of the B vitamins and the minerals. So I'm not sure what the philosophy, why they started polishing the rice up, but scrambled eggs with tomatoes, garlic, and mushroom for breakfast, avocado toast for a snack, grilled veggie and hummus wrap with sweet potato fries for lunch, snack 2, mixed medley in a fruit cup, and dinner black bean tacos with cauliflower rice, which is very good, by the way. I love cauliflower rice. Now we're going to go to the extreme other side of the diet, and that's the ketogenic diet. The ketogenic diet is low in carbs and high in fat. Ketones are a byproduct of the breakdown of fats. There are different variations of the ketogenic diet. You've got cyclical, that's low carbs with 2 high carb days a week. So you got 5 low carb days and 2 high, I wouldn't call them high carbs, but probably normal. And then high protein, where you eat 60% fat, and 35% protein with 5% carbs. And then the standard is 70% fat, 20% protein, and 10% carbs. The goal is for the body to go into ketosis, and that's why diabetics, type 1 diabetics are usually very, very thin because they go into ketosis and lose weight that way. Metabolic process where the body produces and uses ketones instead of glucose. So you keep the glucose away and you use the ketones instead. And it's quick and rapid weight loss. I find this more for men and not women. I don't find women have that as much weight loss with this diet as men do. It's not sustainable as some of the problems with it, and many products are marketed as keto. The ketogenic diet has been shown to induce rapid weight loss and the reduction of A1C. Why? Why would that be? If, let's say you did a healthy ketogenic diet where you were just eating good fats, you were eating, grass-fed beef, cold water fish, and you were eating, eggs and, those types of things. Why would that why would it reduce your A1C? What is hemoglobin A1C? Does anybody remember what I said? It's glycation. What causes glycation? Sugar, right? And it damages your blood vessel. So you're going to have fats because most skin is made of fat. They're going to come in and they're going to help repair that, your blood vessels as well, and reduce the glycation because also you're not eating the sugar. But the fats and proteins will also, the high fat and protein will help repair things better. And it's been proven effective against refractory epilepsy. They did a very good movie on this, a true story called Do No Harm. It was with Meryl Streep. It was a really good movie about this ketogenic diet. A sample would be a mushroom omelet. Snack would be avocado egg salad. For lunch, cheesy bacon ranch chicken breast. For snack 2, flat crackers with cheese. And 3 is grilled salmon with spinach sauteed in coconut oil. How does that sound? A lot of fat there. Yeah. So you know what? You probably aren't going to be very hungry after a few days of that. So this is my favorite diet when people come in and they're sick with their GI condition is sick. I'll put them on a GAPS diet or a modified GAPS diet. It's called the gut psychology syndrome. And if you want to know about this diet, I have my patients buy the cookbook instead of the book about it, because the cookbook actually gives you a lot of information about it. Plus it gives you a lot of recipes. So with the GAPS diet, it's the theory of the diet is that the leaky gut affects brain cognition. So that also for memory and function due to chemicals and bacteria from food and environment entering the blood as they normally would not or should not do. The GAPS diet is an elimination diet. Food is eliminated and reintroduced one at a time to find out what may be causing certain symptoms. And it's primarily used for gut health and children with autism, because 95% of children with autism have very bad gut conditions. So this is the GAPS. It's in 3 parts: introduction, the full diet, and coming off the GAPS. But again, I'd get the others. So it restores nourishing substances for the gut, including your amino acids, gelatin, and glucosamines. It removes substances that are irritating to the gut. So you don't want seeds or nut particles or anything until the gut's healed to be anything with a sharp edge, like a curly kale. You don't want curly kale because if with ulcerative colitis, because could make the tissue bleed and stuff. So do's in it: homemade warm meat and fish stock. I always tell my patients who have GI issues, the crock pot and the blender are your new best friends, because that's how I want you to eat for the next 2 or 3 weeks. Bone broth is very big in that. And we know inside bones is where the white blood cells are there, and bone marrow is where the immune system lies, a lot of it. So it can help the immunity. Soups with well-cooked vegetables and garlic in homemade stock. Add probiotic foods gradually, like fermented vegetables, sauerkraut, sour cream, yogurt. I would add those things first because they're more soft than what vegetables that are fermented usually are. Juices, they say from fermented vegetables. I like anything also that's mucilagenic. If they can get raw dairy is a great way. Raw milk really heals the gut really fast, but you need to make sure you would never, ever do raw milk from a commercial farm. The cows have to be grass fed. It needs to be done the old fashioned way. So we're lucky enough to get milk near where I live from the Amish, because that's the way they still do their milk, and they actually do it by hand. And I've met the farmers, they love their cows so much, and everything. So avoid canned and processed foods in the GAPS diet. Stage 2, you add eggs, add more probiotics, make stews and casseroles from fresh meat with a high fat content and vegetables and fermented things more. And then add ripe avocado, pancakes, and stage 3, scrambled eggs, fermented vegetables. Stage 4, they then add roasted or grilled meats. And stage 5, I don't know why in stage 5, I do this in stage 1, apple sauce, pear sauce, make it at home, cooked pears, those types of things. I don't know why they're using it. And then you start adding like raw fruit and vegetables. Every 3 to 5 days, you can move to the next phase if the patient's doing well. So it says it should be adhered to for 1 to 2 years. I don't know about that, but if they're taking their probiotics and they do the natural antibiotics and everything else as well, I find a month or 2, people's guts are usually pretty well healed. And if they're not, they can go back to what they were doing. Okay, supplements are, of course, probiotics, essentially fatty acids, cod liver oil, digestive enzymes, minerals and vitamins from whole foods. So a sample GAP diet would be Southwest vegetable scramble, shepherd's pie, and then dinner would be spaghetti squash with broccoli and spinach, but that would be about stage 4 or 5, I would think. The DASH diet stands for Dietary Approaches to Stop Hypertension. The DASH diet is rich in fruits, vegetables, whole grains, and low-fat dairy. It includes meat, fish, poultry, nuts, beans, and is limited in sugar-sweetened foods and beverages, red meat, and added fats. One of the 3 recommended diets by the U.S. guidelines. And the U.S. guidelines, their first diet they recommend is Mediterranean, the second is vegetarian, and the third is the DASH diet. So the benefits of the DASH diet is quite flexible. Those that follow DASH diet have lowered their blood pressure, LDL cholesterol levels decreased, and cardiovascular disease is significantly decreased. And then this is just some of the foods, fruit and cereal. But I wouldn't do cereal because cereal wreaks havoc with the blood sugar, because we want to maintain blood sugar levels. But mixed berries with yogurt, chicken salad, beef and vegetables. And I like sweet potatoes and potatoes also when I do like more of a vegan diet for cancer patients or stomach, when the potatoes are really, I find, very soothing. Okay, intermittent fasting. So there's different types of this. Mostly used to lose weight, more sustainable than the keto diet. It's not about what food you eat, but more about the timing that you eat. So we've got the 16-8, where you only eat 8 hours out of the day. This one is probably the easiest one to do, because you can eat for most of the times when you're working and things. So a lot of people will eat from like 10 to 7 or 9 to 6 or something like that, which makes it pretty easy to be able to eat during those times. The warrior diet, within it, you fast all day. From 6 to 10, you feast. So you only feast for 4 hours. And then the eat, stop, eat, 24-hour fast, 1 to 2 days each week. And then you eat regularly on the other days. Shown to reduce systolic, diastolic blood pressure, hypertension, reduce body weight, cholesterol, triglycerides, and LDL cholesterol, reduces the risk of developing type 2 diabetes. Using an intermittent fast diet reduces the formation of free radicals in the body, resulting in protection of neurons from environmental and genetic factors. Yeah, and that's the one thing it does. And a matter of fact, those of us who see people get their cancer reversed with the drugs, we actually believe that it has nothing to do with the drugs, but the drugs are so horrible that the people can't eat. And when you can't eat, that hyperactivates your immune system. So it's a very good way to bring the immune system up. The drawbacks are hormonal imbalances, because our hormones are always up and down, especially our cortisol. If you're pregnant, you do not want to do it. You can become hypoglycemic if you're diabetic, and also hypoglycemia. Now, it's interesting that I can fast pretty easily. It doesn't, maybe I feel hypoglycemic for just a tiny little bit, and maybe I'll take a little bit of water or tea or something then. But other than that, once I get past a certain point with that, then I'm not hungry at all. And I can easily go 3 or 4 days without eating on a fast. So I try to fast once a year, like 3 or 4 days. It shouldn't be done with kids, and it should definitely not be done with people with eating disorders. The food map diet, a lot of people are using this and they find it very successful. It stands for fermentable oligosaccharides, disaccharides, monosaccharides, and polyphenols. Usually it's used for GI issues like IBS. 75 to 80% will see a reduction in their symptoms using the food map diet. These components are short chain carbohydrates, sugars, in which the small intestine doesn't absorb them very well. So that's what we want to eliminate for a period of time. Some common foods, fructose, a simple sugar found in many fruits and vegetables like apples, pears, watermelon. Lactose, found in ricotta cheeses, cottage cheese, ricotta. Fructans, things like beans, avocados, lentils, mushrooms, they take out. And then the polyols, like asparagus. But it is helpful for IBS. So the food maps diet has found to reduce, in a couple of studies here, the GI conditions when people have IBS. All right. Benefits for those who have irritable bowel syndrome, 74% of the patients had improvement. There's also some evidence that suggests it was useful for Crohn's disease and IBDs, inflammatory bowel diseases. Good bacteria in the tract normally produce methane in the body as food gets processed. However, food maps induce hydrogen production greater in IBS. Diet removes hydrogen, increases the methane. This gives less IBS. So it's what I was saying there, that we usually produce methane, but when you have IBS, you produce more hydrogen, And when you use food maps, you get less hydrogen and more methane from those people that were not producing it. It's not recommended for long-term use. If a person already follows a restricted diet, following a food map diet may not be very suitable because they don't have anything left to eat. So you don't want to do that to the patient. So stage 1 is 3 to 8 weeks where you have the total restriction. Then stage 2 is 6 to 8 weeks, and it's you start reintroducing fruits and vegetables. And stage 3 is personalization, where the foods that, I put cherries and all of a sudden my stomach started hurting. So you know that you're sensitive. So it's a type of a elimination diet. So we would have for breakfast porridge with yogurt, cinnamon, and a banana. We'd have walnuts and kiwi for lunch. We'd have, which I would not give things like walnuts and kiwi with people with IBDs because those things could be they've got lots of seeds in them and also the sharp edges. Green frittata with toast and orange, and sweet chili chicken stir fry with rice noodles for dinner.